Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chats. Marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are. If you think it's Get Rich Quick, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong life for you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well. Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats. Good to see a few of the early birds up and at it already today. Do the quick intros as we warm up the live stream. Most of you know this, but Jason Witten's my name. Thanks for joining this morning. Hey, listen, hang around. We've got a bit of a guest, a special guest on in a moment. So make sure you hang around for that one. Morning, Brendan. Good to see you, mate. Yeah, mate, I tell you what, I think we're all feeling a bit of that for sure, Brendan. It's been one of those years, hey? One of those years. Crazy year. Supposedly, my wife's into a bit of the feng shui. We call her feng shui these days. And she talks about the changing of the energy, the changing of the moons and the planets and the whatevers. Anyway, it's all happening. Chris, good morning, brother. Good to see you. Justin is in the house as well. Good to see a few of the regulars here. If you are new and you're finding the show for the first time, fantastic to have you here. Welcome along. The drill is we get together about 10 past 8 Queensland time. The rest of the country, well, you can work it out. But listen, at about 10 past 8 each day, we connect on the live with a cup of coffee just to make sure we stay on track for the day, for the week, for the year when it comes to the world of investing. Because, folks, if you didn't already know, there's plenty of misinformation out there, a bit of fear and ignorance portrayed by the institutions. They don't really care about you and me in any way, shape or form as individuals. And especially when it comes to our money and wealth, folks, we want to make sure we keep on track with it. That's what this is all about, taking some fear and finding out some facts, folks. That's usually what happens. But anyway, welcome to the show, Wealth Coffee Chats. This morning, the title of the show is Buy Well, Don't Sell. That's a little bit of a mantra around here, folks. We've been helping property investors across Australia and New Zealand buy their properties and create their property portfolios for well over 20 years. And the number one problem for most property investors not getting the outcome is the time they own those properties, folks. The challenge has been being able to maintain the ownership over a period of time. And but I did sort of say that mantra for 15 years, and then I met someone. Does anyone know who I met? This fellow came in and messed with my system, messed with my shit, said, well, there are times it might be worth strategically selling. And he's our guest today, one of my favourite humans on the planet, Mr. Andy Fenton, is in the house. How are you, brother?
Morning, mate. I'm doing super well. Morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing great out there, wherever you are in the world. Let us know where you're coming in from. Be good to see where in Australia everyone is. Maybe even see if there's a few WA early risers or early roosters out there, mate.
Yeah, there's usually one or two, Andy, and we've certainly got a few people on the replay. These days, we're a little bit late for most people. Are at work by 9:10 on the East Coast. But Justin's giving you a bit of a shout out there. Morning, Mr. Fenton.
Morning.
Which is great. Hey, listen, Andy, you and I have talked about this for a long time. I might just lay a quick little bit down here for 30 seconds, and then I'd love to, chit chat with you about it as we go along. But sure. Folks, the idea when it comes to the world of investing, certainly property investing, it takes a lot of effort to acquire real estate, right? It takes, borrowing, it takes quite large deposits, unlike sort of shares and other things where you can get started with $1,000 or whatever it might be. It's a lot more it's a lot more challenging to get going. Chris is giving us a shout out there, Andy. Morning, Chris.
Morning, mate.
So, here's the idea. Andy and I talk about this. We've got a similar version of the world. This is the world where it's either accumulation or acquisition, where we talk about purchasing our investments, and over time, we might acquire a number of them. My sort of minimum for most of my clients is around about 5 investment properties plus Prince Place Residence, PPR. I call it sort of 5 to 7 bits of real estate. And I think you're good. Now, you can have a bit more, you can have a bit less if you wanted to, depending on your outcome at the end of the version of the world. But when we do the mathematics, rough income mathematics, if each of these properties here were bringing in $25,000 in rent, so that's $125,000 in the acquisition phase, you let that rent double over a 15-year period. You go from 125 to 250 by the time you get to that 15-year period. So let's have a quick look at this. You go, all right, well, our rents go up, our debts come down, and in the middle becomes an opportunity to create some cash flow and some wealth, some money, which is fantastic, and it's the same for, New Zealand. Australia and New Zealand's fairly similar. You buy some properties over time. As long as you keep them for long enough, folks, this is the thing, because the in cost of real estate investing and the out cost of real estate investing can be rather large, and the market's clunky and slow compared to, let's say, the share market, which can move pretty significantly even in a couple of days or even overnight. So here's the drill. And this is where Andy and I'll get sort of Andy back in the mix right now and sort of say, right, well, this is what this is kind of the nirvana. This was the idea of us as investors kind of getting to, let's call it not necessarily a finish line, but Andy, maybe a starting line. And then we had a really good conversation many years ago, and I slowly but surely changed. I improved my tune. I wasn't wrong. There was an improvement to be had. So Andy, tell us why would we need to sell at this point? Like, what's the inside scoop?
Well, mate, most of you, especially if you start when you're young, if you're acquiring 5 odd properties, and if we fast forward 15 years, we go from, well, what would be the average price of a property that you would sell these days? It's got to be somewhere between 750 and $1 million, but let's just put it at $1 million. And what does property do over a 15-year period typically, Jace? What is it? Is it double value on average?
Listen, we say the cycle in Australia is a 15 to 16-year doubling period. Yep. That's been pretty consistent for a long time.
So if you've got a $5 million portfolio that you purchased and you're in your 20s, 30s or something like that, then as you're getting to your 45s and into your 50s, then that's doubled in value. So you're looking at a $10 million portfolio. And when you start to look at a $10 million portfolio, if you start to figure out what kind of investment return that's going to produce for you, if you do 3.5%, that's what, $350,000 ballpark, right, of rent, assuming that you've got no debt attached to it on a 3.5% yield. So I don't know about you, Jace, but I'm not a big fan of how the government spend our money these days. I just read an article in the Fin Review that Victoria's won the race yet again, ladies and gents. So if you live in Victoria, congratulations. We are the most heavily taxed state in Australia for business. So again, longest lockdown and now the most heavily taxed state in business. So clearly down south, we're winning, mate. Clearly, it's a good thing that we've.
You're very competitive as Victorians, right? You like to win, right?
We like
if you
to
can't win that way, you'll win the other way.
Yeah, exactly right. It's like we don't win the race; we win losing the race. So, I don't like paying tax because, again, Kerry Packer said it well. The government don't spend it that wisely that we should be donating extra. So when you look at it just on a tax basis, like if you get to 60 and now the average age of the Australian, your average Australian is between 83 to 85, right? So if you're retiring at 60, well, that's another 25 years that you're going to live, 25 years earning 300 odd thousand, which is only going to increase over time, right, of your passive income stream.
Yep.
Now, 300,000, if I just do the quick math on it, on today's rate, and whack it in the chat, team, let me see if you can figure it out. How much tax do you reckon you pay if you're earning 300,000? How much income tax?
Yeah, so if you owned it in the way over here, because this is the thing, Andy, while you're working that out, folks, often, especially with a lot of my customers, we've been helping, PAYG, career-focused people for the last sort of 20 years. That's been our niche. And so, often it's easier for lending and also tax minimization to buy those assets in your personal name. So this is one of the things we go, right, the personal name. In the beginning, we can see tax minimization. Andy, last night, if anyone was on our mentoring program, we showed one of our clients. People say, oh, you can't keep your tax to zero. Complete rubbish. We got the PAYG variation from the ATO from a few of our clients. 0, 0, 0. And this is the thing. You can minimize it, use it for cash flow in the short term. You have to rearrange it later on. But, it's efficient to begin with, Andy, but then it becomes inefficient later on, right?
Yep. 100%. And I just did the math on it. So let's just say you're 60, you've got your $10 million portfolio, you leave it in your own personal name because it's created a lot of tax goodness at the beginning. You're going to be paying $130,000 per year, and that'll go up with inflation. So if we just assume that
I need a sound bite for that. Boo.
Well, wait until you cop this one, mate. So you do that and you're retired now, and maybe you leave this mortal coil on your life expectancy of 85.
Yeah,
you're going to have paid about $4 million worth of tax.
That's rubbish.
So at the time when you effectively retire, for the rest of your life, you're going to pay almost 40% of the value of your portfolio in tax.
That's great.
So there's a better way, in my opinion. There's a better way. And, there's lots of different tax concessions. And, when we talk about the super journey, or when we talk about the investment journey in the financial advising world, and when I'm chatting with clients about it, ours is very similar. Like what you and I discussed, Jason, this is what we sort of riffed on together when we first got to know each other. Ours is sort of broken up into three journeys. And superannuation we use largely as protection, right? Protect, and so we can make aggressive investment decisions. And so here we might be borrowing, for properties and things of that nature, and make as aggressive investment decisions as you possibly can to accumulate your assets, both inside but also outside of super, so that you can keep your hands on it. But then when you start to get into this midlife, right, where you might be sort of 40 to say 60, in this period of time, what we want to do is we want to start to look at how we can transition these assets from outside in what's known as a taxable world, and then push them into super, which is obviously a non-taxable world once you're retired, right?
Yep.
So if you retire at the age of 60, the question then becomes, well, how can I, in a tax-effective way, get this as much of this, say, $10 million portfolio or five, insert whichever number it is for you, how can we get that into super in a way that is both tax effective and then create potentially a $4 million or whatever their net amount is portfolio that'll be tax free for a lifetime. So per person, you can have up to 1.9 million.
And that slowly indexes as well, doesn't it, at this moment in time? So, you know,
It does at this point. We'll see what the government choose to do in the future. But ultimately, everyone can have 1.9 at the moment, and they can turn that into tax-free for a lifetime based the current rules. The big trick is, how do you get it in? And so there are a number of rules that, you know, we abide by, and we try and manipulate the system so that the super balances are at the right levels, so that we can get large chunks in a highly tax effective way by using superannuation deductible contributions.
Yeah.
And it might be that we do it after you retire. So sell when you've got zero tax, right? Other than your property portfolio, your income tax disappears. Maybe you use, carry forward contributions. Maybe you look at a different type of investment portfolio whereby you actually restart your accumulation phase of property investing, right? And buy some properties ultimately when you think that you shouldn't be buying anymore, but to minimize the tax, so that when you're selling your current ones and getting them into super, you're creating some tax goodness along the way.
Well, there's actually a good conversation in and around that piece, Andy, where if you've got a property that's 30 years old, and let's say it's gone from 800,000 to, let's say, $3 million of value, what happens, folks, is the rental return disconnects from, in residential terms, in residential world, Andy, your dollar for dollar rental yield starts to disconnect and untrack from the value. So what happens is, like, folks, you guys know this, what happens is you end up with lazy wealth. The wealth is actually getting less and less efficient from an income generation point of view. So if you can, in a way, transform it from a taxed environment to a low to no tax environment, and on the way through, folks, rearrange, Andy. Now you can buy newer property in different locations, and then reset the dollar for dollar income value. You might be popping along at a 2% yield, and now you can reset at a 5% yield with brand new property and in a low to no tax environment. Now, it took Andy, a few sessions on the red wine to convince me, but I'm a convert now. I'm a convert.
Well, it just makes sense. Like, even if you can't get it in a tax effective way, right? If you do the simple math, right, on a $2 million property sale, and just say there's $1 million worth of capital gains in it, you get the 50% discount, assuming it's structured the way that you guys would advise it to be. So that's a $500,000 bill, right? And let's just say your top marginal. So that's $500,000. That's $250,000 worth of potential tax, right? And there's some things that you can do to minimize that, but that's only a small portion of the tax that you'll pay over the next 25 years.
That's right, isn't it? 25 years of tax at this rate, or eat it now and then eat it for 2 years, and then you're ahead for the other 23, Andy.
Yep. Even when you put in investment returns and things like that, the math wins out. You've just got to live long enough. So if you die too soon,
long enough, or you got to start earlier, folks. That's kind of what Andy and I are saying. Get on with it early as possible. Or if you're sort of a bit slower, make sure you take care of your health and enjoy it the most. Because the government is the only winners. Josh has got a question here, Andy. Two people in a self-managed super, like, they can combine, so that's a 3.8. But it really is just a total of each of the members, right? So
yes, so even with the self-managed super fund, you have what's known as a member balance, Josh, which is it's your funds, right? So if you, me, and Jace had a super fund together, I'm allowed to get up to 1.9. Jace is allowed to get up to 1.9. You're allowed to get up to 1.9. If you've got 5 members in the fund, same deal. But here's the thing. The 1.9 is how much you're allowed to transfer into tax-free. Now, follow with me here for a few seconds, because when you transfer that 1.9 into tax-free, what ends up happening is I'll do a nicer color, 1.9. Right,
So we've got we're finished this one off, Andy, because we'll leave everyone in suspense, because we'll say, right, version 2 of this if everyone wants to come back next week. Andy and I'll do some more. Yeah.
So 1.9 goes into superannuation. You have to take out every year, especially if you're 60, right? It goes up as you get older, but you have to take out 4%.
Yeah.
That's one of the rules for it to be tax-free. But the question you got to ask yourself, if 4% is what you're taking out, but you're earning 6 to 9%, does that mean that next year you are going to have more than 1.9 in super in a tax-free environment?
Yep. Yep. And Andy, if you had, let's say, 4 million, right? You know, so you transfer 1.9, what happens to the other 2.1?
So that stays in super mode, which is effectively taxed at 10% is basically the tax on capital gains.
Yeah.
Right? And 15% is the tax on income. Now so, they're looking at
they're looking at that, aren't they? But if you had 1.9 in 0, add another 2 million in 15, you're doing all right when it comes to the world of tax minimization. So folks,
unless they bring in the $3 million limit, Jace, which is where we're going to bring in untaxed gains. Untaxed.
Is that total? Is that total in the 0 tax one, or is it just only in the super?
1.9 can be transferred to tax-free, but balances over $3 million, they're going to start to tax on unrealized capital gains, or at least that's what they're saying.
Well, and you and I have already got a strategy for people with that, don't we? Already loaded up, but we're not going to let you know about that today. If you want to know more, you might have to come back and listen up, because Andy and I are now, folks, teaching this program called the Exit Plan. It's something that's been brewing for Andy and I for many years, and we're helping everyone transform their wealth from this section, which is the accumulation, acquisition, hard work section, into the low to no tax section, and the sooner the better. So if you guys want a bit of that action, folks, let us know. Always happy to include you in what we're doing. But I think we'll leave it there today, Andy, because that's plenty for everyone, I reckon. But mate, thanks for hanging out. Been awesome. I think we should do this more often.
Been too long.
Way too long. Good stuff. All right, folks, that's it from me and Andy today. You guys take care. Appreciate you. Stay safe. Tomorrow will be Cass and the property management team. So make sure you pop along, catch up with Cass and the team. Till then, folks, remember a couple of sayings around here. Buy well, don't sell, unless Andy says so.
Buy well, strategically sell.
Buy well, strategically sell. And it's a bit of a marathon to create some wealth, not a sprint. Take your time, get the right people around you. All right, folks, that's it from us. Take care. Adios. Bye-bye.
It's a good morning from me.
It's a good morning from him. Good night. Good night. Good morning. Anyway, there you go.
Episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcasts, folks, as well as our other podcasts.